All right, gang, this is going to be fun. I guarantee it. This week, my guest is coach, speaker, and podcaster Amy E. Smith. Amy is the owner and founder, get this, of Joy Junkie Enterprises. And she hangs out at her site, thejoyjunkie.com. She's also the creator of the Joy Junkie Show. Are you picking up on a theme here? That show is a popular weekly podcast designed to go after issues of worthiness, self-confidence, and letting go of that people-pleasing to assist her listeners in creating and living radically joyful lives. How awesome is that? Amy uses her roles as a coach, a writer, a podcaster, a speaker to move individuals beyond those limiting beliefs and sabotaging mindsets to a place of, listen to this, I love this, radical personal empowerment and self-love. I'd say the world needs a lot more of that. Amy's been instrumental in aiding countless women, especially, but I'm guessing she's helped a whole lot of men too, in stepping into their authentic power and craft lives they actually want. Amy's making a big impact, and it's just about dang time to have her on the show. So let's do this. Amy, welcome to Dream, Think, Do.
Well, I sound really fancy when you read it.
You do sound fancy. For crying out loud. I always say a good intro is my gift to my guests. You deserve a good intro. Plus yours.
Are you available for voiceover work? Because
I do have a face for radio, I'll admit. I love it. All right. So for you guys who can't see her, we'll put some of the video up online and all that stuff. But she's got these awesome glasses. She's wearing a cool hat. The whole thing. She is a bold statement in and of herself. You got to go check out the joyjunkie.com, all of that. Amy, it's obviously like you're living this. You are helping people move past these limiting beliefs, kind of the self-sabotaging mindsets. You're living who you are boldly, which I just want to honor. I just think it's so cool. But I'm guessing for someone like yourself, I'm guessing you've had to fight for that. Like, has this always been easy for you to live it as well as help others? Or is this something you've had to fight for?
Well, I pretty much came out of the womb speaking like Tony Robbins and dressing like Sophia Loren. So no, I've always had it. No.
I'm here.
No. Oh, quite the sordid tale behind that. So no. And I think that is, I'm sure you can relate that sometimes the hardest things that we go through are in service of the mission and what we need to actually get out in the world. And we need to learn those lessons in order to really be a viable voice for people to go, oh, I think she might be onto something here. Yeah. So I grew up in an extremely conservative, born again Christian family. Very, very dogmatic. And it's interesting even now for you and I to discuss faith kind of behind the scenes.
Yeah.
It wasn't even until the last decade, I'd say, where I started to meet people of faith that were identified as Christians that I'm like, that's not how I was raised.
Right.
Like, I'm like, oh, you're like, cool. And you're allowed to have an alcoholic beverage.
And you're actually, it seems like, enjoying life and happy. Yeah.
Yeah, exactly. And so for a lot, I had a really tough time even saying the word God for a long time because I was quite scathed by my upbringing. Yeah. And my father was actually an incredible human, and he had both a master's in divinity and a doctorate in ministry. Wow. So he was not messing around.
Right, exactly. He's paid for that. Yeah,
he did. And he has since passed on. He passed away in 2007, which really was perhaps the impetus for the direction that I ended up taking in my career. And at the time I had been studying personal development and started to get my feet wet. It was kind of when The Secret came out. You might remember
for sure.
When it was like, oh, manifestation. And I thought, ooh, I can sink my teeth into this.
I'm down on that. Yeah.
Right.
Thank you very much.
Yep, exactly. Dial it in. And, just a little context prior to that, by all intents and purposes, I was the quote good kid. Yeah. I was the one who was working since she was 14 and, put myself through college and juxtaposed against two younger siblings who both did jail time, had trouble with drugs and didn't go to school, sort of the classic tale, right?
Yeah, right.
So just keep that in the corner of your mind. So we get to my dad's service, and I have a history. My first big girl job was in makeup artistry, shocker. And And so I felt very strongly that if my father was going to have an open viewing, the open casket, that I was going to do the makeup for it.
Wow.
So yes, everyone, you heard that right. I did mortuary makeup on my father's corpse.
Wow.
Yeah, talk about
That's amazing. That's a whole conversation in and of itself, because I'm guessing that was that's just something you felt led
Oh
to
yeah.
do, but that's
Well,
amazing. And what a
I
process.
felt like if I had this skill set, like, oh no, Dad, get another makeup artist. Like, I felt like that was a really kind of rude thing to say. I'm like, no, this is something I need to do. Plus, I spoke at the service to a crowd of hundreds. I mean, he had an incredible life story in it. I mean, that's a whole separate situation. But I knew very strongly that those two things were going to be pivotal in that day. So let's just say I felt like I was winning at daughter that day.
Yeah, right? Yeah. Come on. If we're keeping score here, you are winning. Yeah.
And some bonus points, I'd say. So,
right.
and you know, I do also have to say that there was a lot of like laying the hands on, and a lot of prayer, and a lot of things that I felt like I was folded into sort of this faith that I didn't, it wasn't supporting me in the way that it was supporting a lot of other people.
Yeah.
And so I felt very, you know, like an imposter, really. Like, this is not who I am. I felt very out of touch and out of place. So we get back to my mom's home that day, and she finds it the most opportune time to let me know that it just feels like my father and her have failed as parents, because the three of us are not, quote, walking with the Lord.
Huh.
And the only thing that I could really muster in that moment was, this is a teaching moment. So I said, you probably shouldn't say that to a child. And she said, well, that's just how I feel. And, you know, that was incredibly difficult for me to handle. Again, thinking about like, wait a minute, I was the good kid. Wait,
right.
I have been working
all this stuff. Yeah.
I just put makeup on my dad's dead body. Like, I'm winning at that, you know, and yet you're not enough. You're not enough because you don't fit this criteria. And that was a really pivotal moment for me, Mitch. I mean, really, where I kind of went, there are going to be these moments in my life where, and it's not always this hyperbolic, but there are moments where if I choose it, I get to decide, do I make you happy or do I make me happy?
Yeah.
And sometimes it's that extreme. And I thought in that moment, all right, if push is going to come to shove, I choose me.
Yeah.
I choose me. And it's up until that point, I had told my husband, like, okay, we're going to my mom's house. Same thing that you had shared with me anecdotally about your family. Here's what we don't talk about. We don't talk about Jon Stewart. We don't talk about abortion. Right. We don't talk about South Park. We do not cuss. Don't drink. None of it. Right. And I kind of went, my God, I'm cowering. And I am creating this subconscious message over and over and over again that somebody else's wants, opinions, needs, beliefs are more important than mine.
Yeah.
So I need to cower. I need to twist and contort. And that really was the beginning, kind of the genesis of the work that I do. Now, let me tell you, it got really sticky because the first iteration after that was all out assault. It was total combativeness. I was adversarial. I'm like, let's talk about all the things we don't agree on.
Exactly. We opened the door, so I am going through it. Right. Exactly.
Yep. And I'm like,
I wondered because that's right. And I've been thinking this for years. Let's do this. Well, that's what I wondered too, because with you, what I love about your stuff is you are obviously helping people to get that clarity, boundary, take a stand for themselves, but at the same time, not be a jerk about it. I mean, you really have. So I wondered if kind of the pendulum was over here and then it swung way over there. And then you found this way to find you in that middle so that you really can stand up for yourself, to be yourself fully, at the same time, not be a jerk to the world about it.
Well, it really went through this season of time where I felt that I needed to fight for my belief, and I had to do it in that really combative way.
Yeah.
And and there were many, many fights. And it was also kind of compounded by the fact that my mom had now lost her partner of 30 years
Right.
and was looking for who's the next support. And there was a lot of turning to me for social life, turning to me for kind of all of the things. And I'm going, I lost him too. And I also have my family that I need to take care of. So there was a lot of stuff, right? And I often like to say life coaching, because who doesn't have mom issues? So yeah,
by that domain name, right?
So yeah, it took me many, many years. And what really got cultivated was two things. It was the actual cadence and rhythm of speaking to somebody who I did not agree with on many fronts.
Yeah.
And actually delivering it without bite and like sort of that acerbic tone.
Yeah.
And having a real understanding that my voice mattered, what I believed mattered, my wants and needs and opinions mattered. And no one else was going to stand up for that except me.
Right.
And a lot of times I think very disproportionately for women versus men, we think like, okay, if I'm going to get my way, I need to be masculine. I need to be, really abrupt.
Right.
And aggressive. Obviously, I use a lot of other terms for that, but but we get this idea that it's one or the other. It's either we're really strong and really aggressive, or we're subservient and we're passive and we sweep everything under the rug.
Right.
And there really is this hybrid. You can ask for a divorce with the utmost love and compassion. You can ask your children to move out of the house with the utmost empathy and kindness. You can tell your relatives that you don't believe in the same religion you were raised in, or that you have political opposition, and do it with the most kind, respectful cadence and rhythm in your voice. So now that has really become the bulk of what I do. It's twofold. It's the inner piece of I matter, my voice matters.
Yeah.
Like I actually believe in my own intrinsic worth. And then what does that sound like? What does that actually look like to be vocal, to tell somebody, please don't rub my pregnant belly? I find that really offensive.
That's exactly right. You didn't put it there, so you don't get to touch it.
Yeah. Should we talk about your reproductive organs while we're at it? Rude.
I love it. I love it. Well, you mentioned imposter syndrome, and I really want to go after that with you. But I want to spend just more time here, because I think what you're talking about is gold. Because I do think that there is a journey to this, that you do want more and more people to actually get clear on who they are, what they were put on the planet to do, be able to do that with boldness. But at the same time, I do think that oftentimes when it seems like there's a journey that people go on, and it is that pendulum. It's a little bit of the don't know, or I'm getting beat down, so I've lost it, to then now I really know, and I'm going to be in your face, and then being able to help them swing back to be able to say, all right, be comfortable in that, be joy-filled in that, but you don't necessarily have to be a jerk about it. So when you help people through that process, what would you say are a couple of things that you coach them on to help find that ability to relay your feelings, to boundary, kind of what you're standing in, but at the same time, maybe not be a jerk about it?
Yeah. Well, the first item of business that I usually tell people to do is to take an inventory of the things that you chronically complain about. Or whom you chronically complain about.
Yeah.
Because most of the time, if you are really upset with your spouse, your business partner gets an earful. If you are really upset with your mother-in-law, or with your mom, your partner gets an earful. So a lot of times we are very clear about where we need to speak up, where we need to establish a boundary, but we are paralyzed by fear of the actual interaction. And we also think that it means something about us. If I speak up, then I am deliberately inflicting pain, or I am purposely hurting somebody.
Yeah.
And really what that is we're taking on responsibility for other people's feelings.
Right.
But we're told all the time, we have all sorts of rules or sort of phrases for it. Don't rock the boat, sweep it under the rug, don't open up a can of worms. We have a lot of ways to say, shut up.
Yeah.
And it's social niceties. It's being polite about things, and I think that it's time for us to value who we are as much as we value our receptivity.
Yeah.
So one of the other things that I introduce to people is this idea of you are responsible for your intention, not your reception.
I
So we
like that.
walk around thinking, I must be valuable if my in-laws like me. I must be worthy if my business partner thinks that I have a lot of business acumen.
Yeah.
I must be valuable if I own this property. So we invest all of our worth in these things that are outside of ourselves.
Yeah.
And then we negate who we are being, and we just tally everything in the external. And we do that with people's opinions. And that radically affects our self-worth.
Yeah.
Which then affects, what do we go after? You know, I was just talking to somebody the other day who has she has like a degree in molecular biology or something like that. And she's working retail because she feels like an imposter. She is so paralyzed and afraid of what if people don't think I'm smart enough? What if I'm actually not? What if I get the job and then can't perform?
Yeah.
And so
what if I get called out? Yeah.
And that's self-worth. All of that is enoughness.
Yeah.
That's an inside job.
Yep.
Yeah.
That's
I
huge.
don't know if I answered your question correctly.
Well, yeah, no, I love that. So I'll reflect back and see, but I love that from the standpoint of if I'm understanding what you're saying, in some ways to kind of take an inventory of maybe some of the conversations you're needing to have, think through, who am I complaining about? And who am I complaining to be able to say, all right, who is it that really is just getting under my skin? Who's pinging me, putting my button, pushing all my buttons, all of that, to be able to say, okay, that person it's a very good chance you need to have that conversation with that person, and then be able to kind of get clear on where is it you need to take a stand. Is it boundaries? Is it able to speak to, something you believe in, all of those, standing up for yourself. Yeah. But I love the phrase, let's be responsible for our intention, not a reception. Right. So yeah, I'm sure you still have to be real careful with that, because if I go in guns a-blazing, right. But part of that comes back to, all right, is my intention truly to get clarity? Is my intention to truly breakthrough, or is my intention to bust this person up hardcore, right? So it's that whole thing of being able to catch yourself with the intention, but then to go in and say, all right, before I do that though, I do need to do some assessment and say, okay, self-worth, where am I at? Am I doing this out of fear? Am I doing this out of jealousy? Am I doing this because I need to take a stand? So that's right. Is that about right?
Yeah. And you're really spot on with this, because I think if we really take it down to like a primitive response, we kind of have fight, flight, and freeze.
Yeah.
We've got, I'm either going to be extremely combative, or I'm going to hide out and not say anything. And you see it a lot of times in couples. There's usually one couple who's a little more demonstrative and one who's a little bit more reclusive. And you really have to understand that if you are constantly silencing yourself, or you are constantly being combative, you're not actually getting what you want. Yeah. It's just but I think we have to truly understand that we're wired that way, and we're wired that way for survival. So just because you've been adversarial, or just because you've been a little more snippy or biting, you have done that throughout your life because that was the way to get things done. Right. That was how you learned to survive.
Yep.
And conversely, if you learn to hide out, or to be quiet, or to silence yourself, that's what you learned as a tool. And it's also not effective. It's not getting you where you want to go. It's not allowing that dream to come to fruition.
Yep.
So we need a different set of skills. We need a different set of tools here.
I love that, because you really you're taking somebody from survival, right? So they've figured out the survival tactics to say, all right, you've used it to survive, but not thrive. But to be able to say, all right, if we want to thrive, we've got to move past those things we did to either go passive or go animalistic, right? To be able to say, all right, let's find a better way. So I love that. What I see with your work is you're actually doing it too. You know what I mean? And that's a thing, right? And you obviously you started with yourself, and I think that's critical. Now we brushed up against it, and I know this is a passion area for you, but we've kind of brushed up against it even a couple of times now. And I really want to dive into the subject of the imposter syndrome with you, because this is something that's big. And the research that I've done, and I know you've spent a ton of time in this, but fascinating to me in that, from what I understand about the imposter syndrome, it is something that actually affects people that are more successful. Imposter syndrome doesn't really affect people that are just kind of living lives, kind of checked out, all of that. I mean, it obviously can have an impact on everybody, but it's more prevalent in people that are successful or who are growing or who are stretching and all of those things. So I want to really get your take on this because we got a lot of, dream, think doers who they're going for it, right? They're taking steps, they're breaking through comfort zones, but then they get nailed by imposter syndrome and they've either never experienced it before or it's hitting them at new levels. So so let's go after this. Let's get it. So how do you describe to someone the imposter syndrome? And maybe even a better way to say it is how do you help someone know that's what they're experiencing?
Yeah, it's usually a slew of excuses that don't matter. It's that's a great place. That's an entry point of, but I just don't know because of where my kid is in school. And we know very well your kid's doing fine. It would rather you not show up to the events.
Right. Exactly.
And so, it's when you're leaning into the excuse that's not really viable. And as a coach, I'm sure you have this as well, where you can hear it.
Yeah.
You can hear where they want permission to quit. And they want that ally to say, you know what, go ahead and throw in the towel. But the deal with imposter syndrome, and you're absolutely right about it affecting people who are highly successful, it has nothing to do with what you actually are doing or creating in the world. It's about how you feel doing those things.
Yep.
It's that when you go to do the speech, you do the speech. You might even kill it. But you are talking such mad crap to yourself the entire time.
Yeah.
It's that the success isn't as enjoyable.
Yep.
It's that you aren't relishing the accomplishments. So I think it's a mindset more than anything else.
Yep.
So I think one of the easiest tools to kind of attack this is a series of 3 questions that you can ask yourself.
I love questions. Let's do it.
I love a good format. Just how my brain works.
Right. Oh, me too. Absolutely. I love it.
Well, especially when we have personal development that's so like, just believe in yourself. Awesome. I'll get right on that. How?
That's right. It's for that very reason we're talking here. Give me something. Yes, exactly.
So 3 steps. If you notice that you are going into the place of they're going to find me out, I'm not as qualified as they think that I am, or I know that I always stumble over my words, or where your focus is acutely on the shortcomings, the things that you don't want to come to fruition. You don't want to be found out. You don't want to be called out. So going into a place, when you notice that, going into this place, first question is, what are the facts? The facts are, I have a presentation. I am talking with an investment banker. I am looking at an acquisition. I am writing a book. I am, putting in a proposal, whatever. What are the facts?
Yeah.
Because most of the time we take the facts and then we go, we make this huge story about all of a sudden I'm not enough and I'm destitute and I'm on the street.
I can be in an alley in a cardboard box in like 6 seconds, which is hilarious because I live in Iowa and there's very few alleys. But seriously, my brain is amazingly creative. Yes.
Yeah. So first question, what are the facts?
Yep.
Second question, what am I making up?
I like that.
What am I making up? That is where you have to catch the story. And what we do know about how the brain functions is that we naturally want to find the answer. If we ask ourselves the question, we will supply the answer. We like to complete everything.
Yep.
What am I making up? So it might be, I am making up that I'm not qualified despite all of these degrees on my wall, or despite all of this arsenal of education or experience that I have. I'm making up what those people think about me.
Right.
Yeah. Good luck with that, mind reader. Like, wow.
Exactly. They might be frowning at you and you're thinking, oh my gosh. Or even in your mind, you're like, they're not going to like me, but
they're constipated.
Exactly. They had a bad burrito last night. We've all been there. What are you going to do? Yeah, absolutely. I love it.
So what am I making up? So you've got to really parse the facts from the story. What am I making up? And then finally anchor in, what is the truth?
Nice.
And the truth is, you are likely experiencing emotion. I think that our lives could radically change for the better, everyone, if we were taught emotional intelligence. Mm-hmm. If we were taught that feeling fear does not always mean run away, that feeling an embarrassment does not have to mean that you are a failure.
Right.
It just means that it is messaging. It is information coming to you for your benefit. Okay, cool. I'm experiencing fear. What is the truth? The truth is I am totally qualified. The truth is I am completely prepared for this.
Yep.
The truth is I am terrified. Is that a human response? Yes. Can I grapple with fear? I call it becoming fear optimized instead of fearless, to make fear as useful and as effective as possible. There's only one documented case that I know of somebody who existed without a fear response. And it's terrifying because you just like walk into.
I was just going to say, were they clinically insane? Like that is crazy. Oh, that would be.
They chronicled it on NPR. It was really, really fascinating. I think on a Hidden Brain episode. But she would just walk into traffic. Like there was just no concern. There was just no fear response. So unless you are her listening, you are going to be dealing with fear.
Right.
So the idea is fear is just saying this is unknown. It's not saying necessarily that this is dangerous.
Right.
It is saying this is a territory that we have not computed as of yet.
Yep.
So what do we have to do in order to make it compute? We have to do it with repetition over and over again.
Yep.
So when you know that, you can go, oh, talking to your body. I used to do this all the time when I would do community theater, and I'd get so nervous before I'd go for an audition. And I would just talk to my body like, oh, sweet pea. Oh, you think we're going to get attacked by a lion. How cute. You are preparing.
You're adorable.
Oh, I love you. Guess what? We're going to kill it. You've got this handled. And then what's happening? What's happening right then is I'm occupying my mind with something other than the narrative of what if I fall on my face? What if they don't like me? Making up stuff again.
Yep.
So what are the facts? What am I making up? And then what is the truth? And usually that truth has something to do with addressing emotions and understanding, like, it's just a message. What is this emotion trying to tell me?
Yep. Absolutely.
And then, what do I need to do about it?
And to overcome that, to be able to identify, even speak to, and then redirect that emotion, and turn it into excitement. I love that. So what are the facts? What am I making up? And I think that making up question is, so as a recovering worrier, Dream Think Doers know I am a recovering worrier. And it's so funny because I think a lot of people that worry don't think of themselves as creatives, right? They may not be in the design industry. They may not, be a painter or an artist, but it's like, in order to worry, we have to be massively creative because we are painting these pictures in our head of all these things that could go terribly wrong. And those become incredibly real, right? But wait, what am I making up? Am I fearing what could happen? All of those things. But then to say, all right, drill down, what's the truth? And then how do I point this emotion? How do I direct this emotion? And I love that, kind of even speaking to that emotion, saying, thank you for being worried about lions, tigers, and bears, but that's not this. We're going to kill it.
Yes.
So that's huge.
I'd love to share with you a little anecdote of how this shows up in relationships too.
Yeah.
I had a situation with my husband a few years ago. We were renovating an area in our living room prior to us moving from California to North Carolina. It's about 2 years ago. And at the time I was doing a type of yoga in our living room, and I would call them my dates with Dylan. So it was this yogi I was following at the time, kind of like an acro yoga.
Yeah.
So my husband had, because he was renovating part of the living room, we were doing new flooring. He had moved a bunch of stuff from the patio into the living room. He says one thing to me, Mitch. He says, "Are you still having your dates with Dylan?" Those were the facts. One phrase. So guess what I made up? He thinks I'm not taking care of my body. He's not attracted to me. He thinks I'm gross. He thinks I'm gaining all this weight. He doesn't think that's attractive. He thinks I'm letting myself go. He's at the gym. Story. And then what happens if we don't acknowledge that is we start gathering evidence to support the story.
Absolutely.
So if we're watching a movie and he thinks somebody's attractive and says like, "Oh, wow, she looks really sharp," or "I like that dress." What? Right? Because I'm gathering evidence.
I knew it.
Yeah. And that happens in all different scenarios where we
Yeah.
gather evidence to support that story. But if we can shoot it down in the moment, and so that's what I did. I said, babe, can I just tell you where my head went just now? So I tell him the whole story. Here's what I just made up. Here's how it landed. Here's how I interpreted that. Take the responsibility. And he goes, oh, wow, hun, like that is not at all what I meant. I felt like I had made a mess of the living room and I didn't know if I needed to get it out so that you had space to do what you do. Here he is being totally chivalrous and kind, and I'm going into this total ridiculous story. And we do that nonstop.
Oh,
we
absolutely.
do that because we communicate in different ways. We go, oh, that look, like you were saying, oh, they looked at me the wrong way. And then we gather more evidence to support it. When we could actually,
it happens in a nanosecond. It happens at a subconscious level so often. So unless you really are kind of paying attention to like, what's going on in me? Why did I get pinged like that? Right. I mean, that's that training the mind to be able to say, wait a second. Cause I don't know about you, but on a bad day, I can get pinged and, be pinged the rest of the day and can't even, at the end of the day, I'm still pinged and going, I can't quite remember what the trigger was. Right. But now it's like, oh, I've been searching for evidence all day long. So I think that is so, so true. So we can keep talking for an hour, maybe hours. So we're going to go to a quick break. We come back though, we're going to ask for one last piece of wisdom because you've been so, so generous with us. But I want to talk about like one thing that keeps you going, because I know you're going out there dreaming big, thinking better, and doing so much of what you were put on the planet to do. So we'll take a quick break, then we'll come back and go for that. All right, so we're back. Oh my gosh, seriously, we could keep going for hours here. But let's just talk about what's one thing, whether it's a quote, just a piece of wisdom, piece of advice, something that helps you stay on track. Because Amy, you're obviously out there killing it, doing it with the podcast, doing it with so many different things. What's something that helps you stay on track?
There's an amazing quote by Wayne Dyer that I think brings a lot of this stuff back home. So, and who is it that says borrow somebody else's words? It makes you sound smarter.
I like it. And if it was me, I say it with a British accent, because bloody hell, that makes you sound great. Yeah.
Oh, jolly good. Self-worth comes from one thing. But yeah, the quote is, self-worth comes from one thing, thinking that you are worthy.
Oh, wow.
And I would almost infuse that with believing that you are worthy. So even if we're talking about speaking up, if we're talking about our intention versus our reception, if we're talking about imposter syndrome, we think that we will somehow magically get this bolt of lightning of like, oh, now I feel worthy. Now I'm going to go after all my dreams. And the big fallacy that no one tells us is that it's quite simply a choice. Yep. That we can all believe that we are intrinsically valuable and worthy, and then everything outside of that is just the human experience. Some things feel painful, some things feel euphoric, but neither one of those things have to mean that you are valuable or invaluable.
Right.
So that is, and the way that shows up in my life is to accept the gifts. So if somebody like such as yourself has said such lovely things about my work or what I do, I acknowledge that that's a gift. I get to bring that into my house and say, thank you, I accept that. And I don't need that to be worthy. That doesn't now I am enough. And conversely, if somebody does not like who I am or thinks that I handled myself poorly and made a mistake, that will hurt. It will carry emotion, but that also does not have to mean that I'm not worthy. It just means I'm a human having a human experience. So I like to say that there's no self-worth store that you can be like, let me go ahead and pick up some self-worth.
That's right. 2 scoops of self-worth today. Thank you so much. Yes.
And a shot of confidence.
That's right.
You have to decide.
Yeah.
And the opposite, the other paradigm is the chase. Okay, this career will make me worthy. This being partnered will make me worthy. Having a baby will make me worthy. This house will make that people's accolades and honors and accreditations. So we chase, and how's that working out?
Yeah. Right.
What that means is we put our happiness on hold. I'll be happy when. That's what it means. So what if you could actually be happy now and believe in your own worth now and still have goals, but you would just like yourself while you went after them?
Right. and actually live in that joy more often, which I love. All right.
Way to bring it back, Mitch.
See what I'm always on brand. I am always on brand. Hello. So Amy, how do people find out more about you? What's the best way to track you down?
Yeah, so my little corner of the internet is over at thejoyjunkie.com, and junkie is Junkie. And I'm pretty much everywhere under that handle. I hang out mostly on Instagram and like to kind of mini blog over there, but I do a weekly podcast with my husband. I like Mr. Smith. I like to say he's the Robin to my Barry Gibb, or the Robin to my Batman, or the Robin to my Howard Stern. Pick a Robin.
Exactly. I love it.
So, and yeah, be forewarned, I'm a bit of a sailor. So when you come over there, there's lots of explicit content.
You're not afraid to cuss it like it's, yeah, absolutely. And that is awesome. I love it. I love it. So, well, thank you for coming and talking with us.
Yes, I had
great stuff. And I'll look forward to having you back. Just know that we're rooting for you and cheering for you.
Oh, likewise. Thank you.